All right, guys, we got this beautiful early 04 in. Alpha Rex headlights, just noticed that. But this is pretty much an 04 with mid 200,000 miles. Just had a full transmission build from one of the guys down the street. Fun fact, these 48s are getting expensive. This build was $10,300. And we're gonna be going through and servicing it. Just for any of you guys that think I'm lying to you. But that is the end price. $10,382. That is a 1,000 horsepower 48 RE package, and then they added a couple extra things. He's at the 1,000 mile mark, so we are going to be going through and swap the fluid out, change the filter, adjust the bands, second gear, low reverse band, and then we are installing a temperature sensor, which I got to get out of the truck. We got to install this temperature sensor. He didn't say I had to wire it up, he just wants it installed, so we are going to install that as well. But we pretty much got to pull the pan down, drain all the fluid. If it wasn't for the filter, we wouldn't have to worry about that. But let's get under here and check this thing out, because this thing looks really good underneath. You can see brand new one-piece drive shaft, transfer case. I've never seen them braced like that, but it's got a brace on it. Thing is super clean under here, like I was saying. Let's get the light on. All that, and then I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm gonna have to buy one of these for mine personally, but looks like the transfer case was replaced at one point as well. That looks brand new. But the only thing I noticed, and this is why I wanted to start filming it, because it looks like they did new transmission lines, and that was definitely not replaced, the heat exchanger. But noticed it has a little bit of a transmission fluid leak. Let's see all the red under there. We'll get this thing pulled, check and see what kind of gasket they used for it, and then these get torqued. I believe these are also 18 foot-pounds, but I will check and verify that before we do anything. And then this is a Go-Ren pan, big port here, looks like a 24 or 27. I'm gonna go with a 24 first, get this fluid drained. Like I said, this trans has 1,000 miles on it. So the only thing I would probably do different under here is get one of them drive shaft loop things, because that's a hefty bill to ever have to do one of these again if that front drive shaft goes out. So that's the scariest part about these Dodges, is the transfer case is locking up. So I'm gonna go grab that quick. We're gonna get this fluid drained and see how pretty she looks. Fluid looks perfect. I mean, granted, it only has 1,000 miles on it. We'll see what's in the bottom of the pan, but we're gonna check these bolts here. Looks like my guess was a little bit. Looks like we're a little bit bigger than a 6, so might not be metric, might have to be a standard. So I'm gonna go grab another one of them. All right, so it's stuck up there. Now, this is a perfect example. What I'm gonna do is leave 2 bolts in, nice and loose. That way it doesn't just fall. Now, if you're doing this with a factory pan, good fucking luck, especially if somebody RTV'd it. Makes it an absolute pain in the ass, because once it falls, you lose all the fluid, it goes everywhere. So, pain in the ass. What we're gonna do, give it a little tap of a mallet. So, I need both hands, but I'll show you once the pan comes down. All right, so we're gonna let that drip forever in that pan. This is what we got going on right here. A little bit of flakage, normal for about 1,000 miles. So gonna peel this gasket off and replace it, but that was an absolute bitch. So we'll clean the surface up and whatnot. I don't know why it was a pain, but it definitely did not want to come off without a fight. So let's get this thing over on the bench, get this fluid out of here, get this cleaned up, install our temperature probe, and we'll change that filter. We can get this thrown back up in, and then we'll start adjusting the bands. All right, we got the bottom all cleaned off, in here all cleaned out, and then took a vacuum to everything. So we're gonna one final clean this up, and I like to Scotch-Brite the surfaces, but that right there, we'll get that pulled out, we'll get this installed, put a little bit of thread sealer on that, and then this is ready to go back up in. She's all good. We got our thread sealer on there. Now we just got to get this gasket to sit nice and warm. We got to warm it up a little bit so that way it takes shape. To mention, some of these gaskets are a pain in the ass. This gasket here, that's perfect. The only thing I do not like about the 48RE is this spot right here and this spot right here. Wouldn't have killed them to put a damn bolt there. And then on this pan, this is a go-rend one, it looks like. They give you a spot here where, look at the thread engagement on that. So if you torque that to spec, you better be careful with this pan. All right, so this part, not exactly complicated, but it's a T15. Unfortunately, when you start taking these down, that's when they start to leak even more. So we'll get a little bit more fluid. And then being that this has a deep pan, you guys will see up in there, there is a spacer block. This will come with longer bolts if you're gonna do these. And then we'll get into the adjustments, which are, oh, I can't see it exactly with my camera, but they're up there somewhere. I just can't see them with this front drive shaft in the way. All right, as you can see, you'll have your filter block in there. This thing has its own torque spec, I believe. Yeah, you can see the bolts go in there, which just pretty much moves the filter over a hole. I'm gonna make sure this is clean beforehand. This little O-ring thing goes on that, and then we're gonna torque those bolts, those little tiny things, down to 35 inch-pounds. And yes, I will use blue Loctite on these because you can't go wrong. All right, so now that we are torqued down, got a good filter. Like I was saying, you want to make sure that that's good and torqued, because if you don't, and you want to use blue Loctite, because if you don't and that thing comes loose, you know what I mean, you've just screwed somebody's transmission up, and that's not something to play with. Luckily, I have never had one come loose, and I am hoping to never plan on it now. All right, so I had to come back here and check the paperwork, because we're going to do the low and reverse band, and we're going to do the second gear band. The low reverse is in the trans, the second gear band is on the outside. It's been a minute since I've did these, but generally we do 1 3/4. So I'm going to go over theirs, and I'm just going to go with what they say to do. So second gear band, which we're going to do 72 inch-pounds, and then back it off 2 1/4 turn, and then torque the nut back down. And then with the low reverse band, I guess we're going to do back off 3 turns. So I'm going to go show you guys how to do that. We'll do the low and reverse band first while the pan's off, and then we will do the second gear band once we put the pan back on. I'm genuinely not your trans guy, but I do about 2 of these a year, all right? So not a lot, so you're going to have to bear with me, all right? 1/4 inch, 14. So I got them right there. And this one, factory specs, is 3, so we're gonna do it on 3. I want to get the rest of that crap off of there. I didn't see it on this side, but I missed that spot. And then, yeah, we'll back that the whole way off. I wonder, you know what? Let me grab. So apparently that thing is not going to work under here. So break that nut loose. It's a 14 millimeter. Torque the 1/4 inch, the thingy in the middle, right here. Torque that down to 72 inch-pounds, all right? Then back it off 3 turns, and torque the nut down while keeping it in the same spot. All right, that's how simple that is, right? So I'm gonna do that. That's this guy right here. So we're gonna do that quick. Something I've never done on my own transmission that I probably should, but I'm gonna torque that down quick. Give me a second here. So like I said, I'm not doing these every other day, but you're pretty much gonna end up with something like this. When you adjust that band there, it's gonna be a pain in the ass with the filter on. I should have told you to do it without the filter on. I didn't think about it. Like I said, because I'm only doing so many of them, so about 2 a year. But that is where it needs to be. We got 3 full turns out of it, and then torque that nut down. Not really a torque spec on the nut, but there you go. So the inside's done. I'm going to clean this off, throw the pan on, and then we can do the second gear band. All right, so for this one, we're going to get up there. 3/4 inch nut, if I could find it with the damn camera, right there. Yeah, loosen that nut. Torque that thing to 72 inch-pounds, and then we're going to back it off a turn, 2 turns, and a 1/4 turn. So, and then potentially a dab of RTV on the nut. Done these before. You may have a leak if you don't. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to show you guys. But what you're going to want to do is put this on the nut and a 3/4 wrench on the inside. So that way it doesn't spin. This one will spin on you. The one in the trans won't, but that is your second and low reverse bands adjusted. Something I need to do on Bertha, but just have not, never really cared to do it. I put over 100,000 miles on that transmission. Oh man. So next step is to fill the trans, and then we are done. Oh, I like doing the, okay, there's 2.5 gallons in here, might be a little less. So we're gonna start with 9 quarts, get it fired up, run it in neutral for a little bit, let it do its thing, and then we'll go from there. And we'll have to drive it around and make sure the converter's full. We did not drain the converter, but being that this is a customer vehicle, a test drive is in order to make sure everything is 100% and flawless. It is now 12:30 in the morning. I told him it'll be done for him by tomorrow after he's done at work. So we will be in here tomorrow night, all night. Detail guy's coming to take care of that project over there. He's gonna clean that thing out. But in the meantime, let's get this thing fired up. All right, let's get her fired up. I'm gonna go grab the keys. Oh man, let's see. This thing loud. We're right at the minimal. All right, we're gonna go drive it. And then we'll check it. All right. All right, we're backing this thing out. This thing rattles a lot. 8,000 PSI of rail pressure at idle. Rail pressure desired, 8,000. That's a bit much, I would think. Mine doesn't even idle that high. That's probably why it rattles. Ooh. All right, I'm gonna turn these lights up so we can see. But we're pretty much gonna go take it on a test drive, get it warmed up. There's plenty of fluid in it, so it should be good. And then when we get back, we'll check it for one last time, but I need to run it through the gears and get it into overdrive. All right, so unfortunately, my camera died the second I left. So we got it to go into overdrive, tow haul mode, the whole 9 yards. Everything works great. Just check the fluid. It is where it needs to be. There's no leaks under the truck. I'm not gonna move this camera because this camera sucks. Other phones in the truck. But runs great, drives great. I'm gonna go park it, get the miles off of it, write the invoice up, and send her out the door.